Hey, Queens, welcome back to another mini solo episode. This is the first solo episode I am doing in my new studio. I just got finished with this. It's in my home and it's making it a lot easier to just really crank out episodes, both with the solo queen talks and then also with the soccer queens and all of the guests. So I'm really excited for this new studio. It continues to get updated and I just want to make the podcast awesome and fun to watch, fun to listen to. So thank you. Thank you for all of the support, for making this happen and tuning in and even just watching. I think when I started this podcast in 2020, I didn't know what to expect. I thought that just my mom might listen and maybe a few fans, but I'm just really overwhelmed and so grateful for all of your support of the episodes. So, if you like this episode and if you're enjoying all of the past episodes, be sure to hit the like button, send a comment, ask a question. I just want to continue to engage with all of you guys. Okay, so today's episode, let me just take a drink first of my electrolyte drink. This is not an advertisement for BioSteel, but this is my go-to electrolyte drink at the moment just because of the sodium and potassium and magnesium content. I don't have any affiliation with them. I just really enjoy this and you guys should get them. Okay, so I'm ready to go. And normally I don't record Queen Talks on Mondays just because I have a lot going on, but I did have a little bit extra time and I just did a speed workout. So I'm super fresh. I'm super energized. My brain is totally lit up. And I couldn't help but think about how much this episode is needed because I get a lot of questions about how to deal with mean girls. Yes, team drama, gossip, jealousy, maliciousness. It is so awful to go through. And I think if you're a young girl or teenager, you've experienced it at some point in your life, whether it was on your soccer team and there were a lot of different cliques, or maybe you experience it in school with certain friend groups. So this episode applies to all of that. And I want to share a story with you guys when I was growing up and when I really started to deal with true bullying for the first time. And it did happen on my soccer team. I was one of two left midfielders on my team, and I was the one who started over this other girl on our team. Not once was I ever mean to her or not inclusive. I was actually really good friends with her in the beginning. And then it started to get to a point where she was starting to get jealous that I was getting more playing time over her. Back in the day, we didn't have cell phones or texting or Snapchat or any of that. But we did have something that was called AOL Instant Messenger. It was like the first line of communication online where you could talk to your friends. I experienced cyberbullying for the first time. What happened was I was on Instant Messenger and she started messaging me and just came out swinging. And I was so floored. I was like, where the heck did this come from? We're friends, we're on the same team, we push each other to be better. It just kind of came out of left field. I was so sick to my stomach that someone could be this malevolent that it really rocked my world for a little bit. And she was saying things like, "Oh, you're not that good at soccer. You don't deserve to start. You play like crap." And just really bringing me down for the fact that I was starting over her. And it was definitely very startling for me. I knew I wasn't those things. I knew I earned my spot. I knew my coach saw how hard I was working. I knew that that starting spot was mine and what I deserved, but on her end, she was trying to use bullying to bring me down and to make me feel defeated so that she could maybe get me riled up and that it would ruin my performance and then she could start over me. It was like really that messed up at the time. At first, I was really discouraged that I was starting to lose a friend over this. It made me realize that if you are doing well and if someone who says they're a friend of yours brings you down for doing well, then they're not a friend in the end. They should be extremely happy for you. They should be supportive of you. If you're just existing and you're triggering someone because of your success, then that's on the other person. And you have to really continue to focus on how you're showing up, who you are on the inside, what your character is. So even when someone starts to bully you, you would stoop low to their level by bullying them back and being mean back and getting defensive back. And you don't want to stoop to that level. If you're going to suffer from others bullying you, at least suffer for doing good and being a good person. And that's really the only option you have in these situations is you can always take the high road. My mom always told me to be the better person and to just not let people get to me or amplify me. And it applies in your soccer career as a young athlete. It applies in your school and your friend groups, but it also is going to apply when you're older and maybe you work at a company or you have a job and you have to work on a team or work with a boss and have colleagues, and you have to be a good person to work with. And you also have to realize that there's going to be just bullies and bad people everywhere. Again, like people will bully you because they might be jealous of you. Maybe just you existing like really triggers them because you're so awesome and successful and radiant and vibrant, and it just gets them mad. But continue to be that. Continue to be the light. And the meaner someone is towards you, then that's your opportunity to continue to be that shining light. And maybe for you being that light, that radiance, and just exuding kindness to others, maybe it will eventually inspire mean girls to do the same. So I encourage you guys, take the higher road. And there might be some situations in teams where it's just so bad that it could get to the point where you do have to question, okay, well, is this so crippling and toxic that maybe I need to get out of this environment? And that's a very good question to ask. For me, I loved my team at the time and I loved my coach, and all the other girls were so amazing. It was just really this one girl that was bullying me, but it was still worth it for me to show up. It didn't affect my playing because I focused on one, being a good person, two, being a better soccer player and athlete, and three, focusing on the girls on my team that were supportive of me. That didn't mean I was going to ignore or kind of shun the girl bullying me, but it did mean I just wasn't going to really give her the time of day when she would bully me. And eventually it got to a point where I just wasn't phased by her, and she realized I wasn't getting phased by her, and my performance was still good. I was still starting and doing my thing and having a blast. She was the one who eventually left the team and went elsewhere. So in the end, it ended up working out with me just continuing to focus on being a kind person back, loving her back, and focusing on my game. But if mean girls still hang around and you're in an environment where you're just like, oh, I don't look forward to practice. Like, this is so miserable to the point that I hate my sport and I just don't want to be there. And it just makes me sick showing up every time, knowing that there's like all these mean girls and all these cliques, and I just feel like I don't fit in. Well, in that situation, you have two options. So the first one, you have to go to the coach because the coach establishes the culture. The coach establishes that environment. If there's an environment of cliques, that is a big team culture problem. So it begs the question, okay, well, is your coach doing a good job of making sure that everyone's on the same page, everyone's treating each other like a teammate and with kindness? Because that's what sports are all about. You have to have good team chemistry. I'm not saying every girl has to perfectly get along. That's really hard when you have a large group of girls, but there shouldn't be bullying and people bringing others down. And it shouldn't be this really, really toxic environment. So you have to go to the coach and bring it up. Then, if that doesn't work, so you bring it up to the coach, you allow a few months to kind of marinate and see if it gets better. If that doesn't work, then your second option is you have a decision to make. Is it worth you staying in this environment, or can you go elsewhere? And I've had girls who are like, well, like, this is the best team in the state. It's the ECNL team. I'm going to get seen by colleges. And like, I kind of have to be on this team and like suffer through it with these girls. Well, that's your decision. Are you willing to suffer through it further? How much longer are you going to have to suffer through that? Is it worth paying the cost? Or are you ready to just jump ship? Maybe go on a different team. Maybe it's not as good, but you're a lot happier. There's good team chemistry. The culture is really great. It's really healthy. Is it worth it to go on that other team? Maybe you won't get to the best showcases. Maybe it's not the best team in the state, but that doesn't mean you're not going to play in college or you're going to miss out on big opportunities. So, really keep that in mind and make sure that you're thinking this through and make sure that you are always trying to be your best and you aren't giving mean girls and bullies ammunition against you, because if you're mean back, then they're just like, "Oh, see, I told you she's a bad person." Always happens. You always want to take the higher road in these situations. And if you're thinking about playing in college, that team culture piece is so important. And you really have to do your research on this. I've seen a lot of girls make really fast decisions to play for certain like top level programs or schools that they thought were amazing, only to realize that the team culture was really bad and really, really cliquey. And the girls were really mean, and the coach did a poor job of keeping it at bay. So you have to really do your research because it's another 4 years. That's a long time, and you want to enjoy those 4 years. It might be your last opportunity to play high level sports. And that's one of the reasons why I had turned down several Division 1 programs in the ACC and the Big 10, because Johns Hopkins University had this amazing tradition of all of the girls just having great chemistry. Everyone was so nice. The soccer girls actually were known as the nicest sport on campus. And I remember taking my campus tour when I was a senior in high school, and literally the field hockey girls told me that, the volleyball girls, the basketball girls, they all were like, "Oh my gosh, women's soccer is like the nicest group on campus." And I was like, I'm sold. That's where I want to go. And maybe it's not D1, but I get a group of tightly knit girls. I get an academic school, and I still get great soccer, and I'm going to get playing time. So I was like, this is the perfect situation. But I will say the girls getting along was so huge. And we had a roster of over 30 girls. And let me tell you, it is very, very impossible for everyone to be like BFFs, but we were close. We did everything together. We ate breakfast together before classes. We studied in the library together. We had parties together. We did different team dinners together. We literally did everything together, and we didn't get tired of each other because we just treated each other with kindness and with respect. But that started at the top. It had always been a tradition of the women's soccer program at Johns Hopkins. So I encourage you guys to seek out college teams where you don't have to deal with mean girls, because once that's deeply rooted within a team culture, it's going to take a long time to change. It might take a few years till people graduate, or the coach has to like really clean house on that, or maybe there needs a new coaching staff. It might take time. So going in, be proactive about it and really look at that culture piece. So I guess to summarize, you guys, if you're dealing with mean girls, the best way to deal with mean girls is to not be a mean girl and to just be the better person and to make sure that you're looking for environments where the social situation is healthy and you're working as a true sports team. I hope this helped and leave a comment below. Have you dealt with mean girls? What did you do? And how did you handle the situation? I would love to hear more. Or maybe you need some extra advice and have some questions. Feel free to comment or reach out to me. And I appreciate you guys listening to this mini episode. And I will see you next week on Queen Talks.